Some people had homework, and that's kind of what I structured the agenda on. And we just heard back on the first thing, which we have little handouts there. But VLCT is going to have a conversation. Rick and VLCT's insurance holder, is it Kelly, are going to have a conversation about the policies in place and what we could potentially do. But right away, she pointed to a couple exclusion policies.
The bottom line is, I talked with Chip about this after I sent that email, and he said it may not even be worth meeting with her because there's a definite exclusion for errors related to accounting errors, which would basically mean the error of the $200,000 a year that we double counted as income. So I will have a quick conversation with her on Monday, but I expect that that's going to be our answer. So.
Yeah.
What about any of the other errors that were committed over the years or mistakes?
No, because they would all be considered accounting bookkeeping errors.
Yeah.
So the only thing which should be covered, as I understand her note, you can read it, is we should have coverage if we're sued by someone, but
We know somebody who can do that.
so, but I didn't expect to hear anything. Actually, when I read it the first time, I thought, maybe I was wrong, but then I read it more carefully with Chip, and I think these are all excluded categories for insurance.
Too bad.
This is the insurance that we have. Have we got the full policy that we can look
Somewhere,
at?
I'm sure. I don't have it at my fingertips. So, I mean, I'm sure it's available. It's just not anywhere near the top of my list of piles in there. So,
And the other thing that we mentioned that we have not got is the auditor's report was supposed to have 69 notes in it, and for the other single audit, it was supposed to have like 29 notes in it, and those notes have never been produced for us to see what the errors were in the reports, which is really, well, they call them journal entries, I think.
I don't know. Can we do that one? If there's a specific ask that you need me to write to KBS to try and ask for,
All
Is
of
this
the
from
journal-
last year or
you're
this
talking about
year?
this
Last year.
Yeah.
Well, they should have been produced and into our.
Do you know, Jim? I don't remember. What Ann's asking about the audit report notes. Do we have a?
There's always notes included in the audit.
But it wasn't in the full published packet from the
No.
audit?
Right.
I'm sorry, it wasn't.
Right. No.
When you get a final audit book,
Yes.
there's always a section of notes.
So do you have that?
I haven't seen it in
I'm sorry?
From last year.
No, but
last
you,
year. Oh, yeah, I got last year.
last year's.
Yeah, it would
Okay.
be, could I
That
get
would
a
be from the
copy?
year before.
Can I look at a copy?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go down and look. Thanks.
Haven't got the new one
Right.
yet.
I think in 2024, there was one finding, and the finding was that the balance sheets had not been reconciled.
Which is exactly what we've been obsessing about for the last 5 months. Okay.
Well, glad you can hear us and glad we can hear you. So that's a fun way to kick off this meeting. The second one is recommendations to council. This morning met with Jim and we talked about backing up is VLCT has internal controls handout. Lori printed off a copy. I printed off a copy and I left it at my office yesterday, my dad. Then there's a checklist that the state has us do via statute, and this is supposed to be done at the close of every fiscal year. So Jim went through that right away, and we can talk about. And there's some gaps that I don't see VLCT really has. I don't really see that is included just explicitly in here, and just jumping off of the audit, like how there is one, we don't really have any written policies or procedures around our financial office, which is like understandable if people have been longstanding in that role and they've got their methods, but you know, I think maybe this would help kind of expose, okay, we don't have anything written down, and if Jim were to eventually retire, like, we'd want to have some policies and something that we abide by going forward. And then going back to the audit thing, apologies, is that there isn't anything written in this checklist or in the VLCT checklist that says review and consider the recommendations, or not recommendations, but the audit findings, right? Like, I know that's obviously sometimes you need a clean audit, but if there are findings, like, what are we to do about those? And a lot of the VLCT things you can tell is written for a rural state, so it's kind of structured where there's just one person in the office, and it's fairly straightforward versus the complexities. But I think that then goes back to, we probably need to have some more written policies and responsibilities. So this is a really good launching off point, and I think I would recommend that, or I'd hope that folks, Jim just got this to me this afternoon, so I didn't make a copy of it. I'm happy to make copies and share it, but I think in general, this should probably go in front of council sooner than later, because one, it's written in statute, but two, it's just a really great place to start for conversations. But apologies that the timing of this didn't give you guys ample runway to look at it, and or at least look at the responses from Jim in the office.
Maybe just, are there any glaring omissions, or Jim, anything that seems like it's going to be a real hassle in the sense of documenting? I mean, well, let's rephrase it. Documenting is a hassle. There's no way around that. But I mean, are there any glaring things or things that you foresee as being landmines or major problems?
Not that I know of. I mean, basically everything's available from NEMRIC and everything.
You have to speak up, so.
I say basically everything's available through NEMRIC anyway, all the reports and everything. It's just a matter of running them.
Right, we can go through this checklist, but for the most part, the practices are in line. You know, do we reconcile bank and ledger balances monthly? Does the individual, are checks always written to specific pays and not to cash? Are bank statements reconciled on a regular basis? Then there was one about specifically NEMRIC. Oh yeah, our financial records maintained in computerized systems. Super duper yes now, right? So there's some things that are okay, and then there are others where I'm going, oh, for example, does the town have written policies and procedures for financial operations? No, and there are no copies to be found in the office. But also there's things have select board members attended financial trainings? You put, I don't know, but that's another way where it's not necessarily, yeah. Where, okay, I've taken a VLCT webinar, but I wouldn't consider that a training course, and if we are, the select board is supposed to provide that oversight that VLCT's suggested are great. This is going back to saying, what more can we do? So I think that this is in general illuminating and a really great place to start on improving our operations within Newport, but also gives definitely some assurance, I would say. It's not, so, yeah, so I think going from here, bringing this to council, having a discussion about it, I'll make sure you guys have copies and can look at it soon, will be the next step. And then, I don't know if drafting our policies right now is of urgent matters, but I definitely think it's within the needs to be addressed sooner than later, because we are taking on so much debt for the taxpayers. I'm just thinking about how can we keep making sure we're doing what we're saying by keeping accountable and being transparent and doing everything that we can to go forward with good practices. So
yeah, I think one of the things we heard a lot is, and we've been hearing it and we were trying to speak to it, but we continue to hear, what are you doing moving forward to keep all of this stuff from happening again? And I think that if the community members that are asking those questions, we say we are, which is what all of this is about, but we don't have anything concrete yet. And And I think that, you know, we probably, you know, we've got some financial things that have to be taken care of, you know, like the 10-year projection, that kind of stuff. But I think people are gonna keep hounding us if we don't show them something with the, you know,
Yeah.
with those suggestions, with those policies, with, you know, what are we doing to move forward?
Yeah.
So even if we just picked, you know, 2 or
Like slowly chip
something.
away, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
The policies that need to be written, are they, just because I'm not looking at that, are they documentation of how, things that we're supposed to do and how they're supposed to be done, or more guidelines of like how we're gonna prevent, you know, maybe it's they're one and the same because I'm asking the question, you know, what needs to be done, how it's gonna be done, which is kind of that. And then policies are like, you know, anything over 10,000 needs X approvals, things of that nature. So what are we trying to produce there? Because when it says practices and procedures,
It's like
I mean,
the catch-all, really.
yeah, I mean, it's like such a big
Yeah.
animal. To your point, are there 1 or 2 things that we can focus on? You know, like, let's make a list, let's figure out what are the 1 or 2 most pressing, and then just big rocks first.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know who's the right person to say what are the right practices, policies, and procedures until we really know what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Well, can we look at another city's practices and procedures and get a real clue from that?
Yeah. I feel
And
like-
then, or maybe from 2 cities or something like that. And then see what's appropriate for us and what's most important for us to act on in those. We may be able to get them out quicker.
Yeah, I like that idea. Getting some comparables, because yeah, starting from scratch and slash the whole thing is overwhelming and will cause a block almost
Is that
immediately.
from the VLC, since you're using a VLCT recommendation list, do they have any recommendations?
Right, and
Yes.
so, yeah, so, right, so there's those.
Throughout the document, they have links
Mm-hmm,
to model policies and procedures.
And we can,
So-
go ahead, Jim.
Well, I take it, just like when you're programming, always start with what do you want to get for output, and then go back to how you're going to get the input. And so one of the first policies to be adopted, which I think has just been said, but not necessarily adopted, is financial statements presented to the city council on a X cycle. Their guideline say quarterly, and mine say monthly. If the city council's signing warrants at every meeting, they ought to be able to see budget to actual at every meeting. They can choose to put it on the agenda, but the board members can get it. That allows individual board members with more interest to then pose questions rather than waiting until you're looking at an entire year's worth and saying, what's wrong?
And if I'm hearing what you're saying correctly, Chip, that speaks to the point of where we've put all the salaries, you know, in the chart of accounts, where you have all the salaries, so then every week or every couple of weeks when you look at the warrant, you look at the payroll, you can go back. I mean, a council member who, like you just said, is interested enough, you know, can look at that stuff. Why, and maybe ask the question, you know, what happened this week when we had to pay this person 20 hours of overtime? I mean, if they want to get that technical, but I'm just saying, you know, those are the things that jump out at you. Why did we spend, you know, $10,000 on something when it's not, you know, out there, when we have been presented with it, or whatever the situation is?
One of the legit criticisms in the past has been that council did get a significant amount of information, except they had no clue what it meant.
Yes, there was no interpretation.
No interpretation, and none of them asked questions. I mean, they sat there like zombies. And that was it. And if you want something that will make a difference to those of us in the cheap seats, it will be seeing the council awake, aware, asking questions, looking intelligent, and being responsive, because that wasn't there.
It's even hard on council nights. I mean, I don't print the agenda and all the attachments. I just pull it up on my phone. But you get to the warrants and everybody goes, yes. And it's like, and this is nothing, I mean, obviously you guys aren't getting this stuff until Friday night. You've got a weekend, you've got a family, you're out of town. It's not anybody's fault, but I think if we're asking the council to do something easier, something a little less cumbersome.
That was a real issue with the warrants, and the one council member who said, I will not sign off if I don't get stuff in reasonable time was Clark. And he got all kinds of abuse for that. He refused to sign if he hadn't had an adequate time to look at them and to ask questions. And that's important.
Any other areas of focus, like that we should
Are
prioritize?
we setting a target for, as we're absorbing these additional burdens, have we put out any goal? I don't care if it's the actual goal we need to have, but if we set any goals out to the division heads and as a whole and saying our goal is to come in 3% lower than forecast in any way, shape, or form, has any line in the sand been drawn?
No, where we are right now is we have said to all of the department heads, we want your best, most realistic take on whether or not this year's budget is realistic. If you have pie in the sky numbers here, now's your moment to tell us so. If you think that we're way off in some category, we want to know about it.
Okay.
And we've met with every department head individually, Carter, Carrie, Chip, and myself, to have that conversation. And I have increasing confidence that our balanced budget for this year does in fact balance. In fact, I can see places in it where I think we're likely to pick up some space, which is good because every budget you end up also going over in other categories. So
I appreciate it.
I'm feeling much more confident now than I was a month ago about that budget. What we haven't yet done is try to set any kind of a standard for how we're going to manage these questions for next year.
Yeah.
And that process will begin in October. So.
One of the, quote, habits has been, well, this was my number last year, let me add X percentage, and then divvy it up amongst the, quote, buckets.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
not
so
good
two things will change in that area. We've also had that conversation at the same time with the department heads. The first is that by the end of this month, we're really hoping that we're going to have this new chart of accounts that Chip is working on and that all of you will have a chance to review. And the whole goal of that is to make it as plain and simple as possible, the way the budget, what is actually happening in our current budget. Or not current, but in our, as we budget. And so it will, Chip, can you name our 4 areas that are going to be covered by every department in terms of expense again?
So typically payroll and benefits is a group within each department. Operations is a group within each department. Maintenance of buildings or grounds is a group within each department. And then maintenance of equipment is a group within those departments that actually have equipment. So we can then categorize, show me all operations no matter what the department is, show me all salaries no matter what the department is, or just show me everything related to a department.
Yeah.
And our hope is that this will be a half step away from incremental budgeting that Pam's talking about and toward priority-based budgeting that says, what are the things that we're really trying to accomplish in this budget, and are we prioritizing those appropriately? Though I'll add, because I know if I don't, Chip will, we will be using care not to build the chart of accounts around priorities that change year to year. So, this year, we don't really have an appropriate way to engage people in the community in the initial stage of budget creation, though we hope to do this big kind of budget day in January where the community will be invited to come and really do a careful walkthrough on it and then raise questions, after which there's still time to make changes before the council will consider a final budget for this year at the end of January.
Is that what you mean by the town meeting?
Yes, that's the purpose of the town meeting day on January 10th, is to have that conversation early enough that there will be an actual chance to really engage the budget in a meaningful way.
I would hope that that town meeting is also going to have the flip side, which is that it's an opportunity for citizens.
Yes, of
It's
course.
not just-
It's not the only thing we'll do that day. In fact, I can think of a number of other things likely to end up on that agenda. But for the purposes of budgeting, I've asked all of the department heads to plan on being in town and available the following week as we do any final review based on what comes out of that town meeting. And that will get us, that's the week of the 12th of January, so that we will have time before the end of the month for council, who will have now had an opportunity to interact with this budget for 2 full months, because they'll first see the initial version of it by December, early December. The council will then be able to make an informed decision about what we're putting forward to the community for the final vote on March 3rd.
In subsequent years, will that meeting be moved up to before the budget process starts? Which
Sort
would
of.
give it more meaning?
No, sort of. In subsequent years, starting next year, what Carter and Kathleen from VLCT and I were talking about, which we've talked about here in this room a few times, is that our goal would be in April or May to hold another special town meeting day in which the goal is really to engage people in big picture thinking, blue sky thinking. What does a budget for a city like Newport, what do we want that budget to do and accomplish? So we'd have an initial run at that, so that as staff is working through the summer and early fall on the budgets for each of their departments, they will have had input from the community, and that's the kind of the next major step toward priority-based budgeting. But so still at the end of the day, the budget itself will have been crafted primarily by department heads, but far more information from the community will be available to them when they do it. And then my guess is we'll stick with something similar, just because I can't imagine how you could do a town meeting in the midst of the holiday season. Like anything after the middle of November is kind of shot from then to the end of the year in terms of people's lives. So I think the likelihood is we stick with the pattern. But we'll see how it goes this year, right? I mean, if it doesn't go well or nobody comes, we'll rethink it, obviously.
Well, the hope is you build the momentum and then you get into actually coming to council meetings in November, October, November.
Offering feedback.
And have, just encourage the community to continue coming.
Yep.
Have a time, like we've done before, when each, department head is here and we're starting to look at those budgets, then, but that just gets people involved on a regular basis instead of these large
Right.
meetings.
Going back, well, I don't know if this is part of one of your question, Hal, but kind of like a deadline around this. I think would be interesting to maybe by the end of the actual year, calendar year, to have a draft, but that just is in conjunction when we're talking about the budget. So we have some runway time to get some comparables, to look at VLCT, to run them by our office and see, oh, we already do this, yeah, easy peasy, or oh, that's kind of weird, but maybe with Carrie or city manager in the future this makes sense, but for now not. So kind of like teasing that apart. So I think that could be an interesting background thing that we're working on. And I need to understand the regulations, because when I think group project, I think Google Docs, I think sharing, but I have heard and understand, like, this is where I want to make sure I am staying in my lane and being correct with open meeting law, because when you start to work on a document or add comments and add writings, that can, but I don't know if it was like a subgroup and we're working on something, if that would be okay as long as you're in on it, I don't know. So I gotta do some work on that. But in the meantime, I'll just keep it in my court. I'll get comparables. I'll keep moving this forward, and I'll get, when I can assign you guys some homework, I will, legally. But does that sound good with everybody? And Jim, does that sound good of like, okay, maybe in a month we'll be, okay. Awesome.
So I just want to add this because this is what I do
Yeah,
in the real world.
love it. This is why you're here.
This is in the real world, but
Yeah.
so there's a couple of things, and one is just making sure that we have, and this could already be a practice, but just making sure that, you know, our city clerk treasurer's office has what we would call standard operating procedures.
Yeah.
Checklist, who's doing what, why is this happening? And it can be everything from just a checklist to a short standard operating procedure. It doesn't have to be, you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but, you know, making sure that things are written down. You know, Carrie's new at this. I don't know what she came into. Are there documents in the city manager's office that say, you know, this is what you do? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's just a suggestion, because this is something I'm working on with my team at the bank, that, you know, they're just kind of checklists, but this is how we're doing things.
Yeah.
And that's beneficial. We like to use the term, if somebody got hit by a bus, somebody could step in and do the job. We
It's
don't
really
really want to go there, but
Yeah.
that's, you know.
Was it like single person something?
Single point of failure.
Yeah.
What is
thank
that?
Single point of failure.
Yeah. So it's, and I don't know,
And
maybe
that takes the
you
place
guys
of
already
the
have that kind of
right?
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe
But
you guys
it's
already
true,
have that
it's-
kind of stuff, but with all the new.
Is anything like that out there, Jim?
No, we've followed procedures we followed for years and years and years.
Yeah,
And we're doing payroll, we know what we gotta do.
it's
Yeah.
Right.
it's
So
tribal.
it's-
It's
so
tribal
it's just-
knowledge.
Do pay bills, we know what we gotta do.
Yeah, so the idea is, and I listen, believe me, I recognize the amount of time, because I'm in the same boat. But it might be that, you know, just over the course of a couple of weeks, as somebody's doing payroll, start making a checklist, speak into the phone, something that they can, you know, go back to. I mean, there's programs out there that can follow you. There's, you know, we've suggested to our teammates to, because we use Teams, you can actually record a Teams of what you're doing. You can record a Teams meeting with yourself, but it's kind of
Oh,
weird,
yeah.
you know. And so it's just one of those things where, you know, if something happened to the entire office, who could step in and do it? Well, Chip could, but okay. So
Yeah.
so we have that,
Chip's
and we
expensive.
have backup. But I'm just saying that it's always a good
There's
thing.
different ways to do it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
If we're, and I don't want to go, starting to go down a hole,
Yep.
but maybe in the next, and Jim, you'd have to tell us, before we get into like documenting how we do our procedures and all that kind of good stuff, how many weeks would it take to just, for everybody in the office to make a list of, here are the things I'm responsible for doing and executing in the course of a week, a month, a year? And
If you're talking about the job description, listing out everything we do down there,
yeah,
I've already got it.
so.
Well,
You're
it's
gonna do a finance.
And probably a little bit more detailed, like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, there's 2 pages of it, so it's pretty detailed.
well, then, you know what, that might be a great thing for us all, if we can just get those, and if you can email it to everybody, let's just see what's going on. I don't think people know what's happening in
I
the
don't
office.
think people.
Yeah.
I think
they
people have
don't-
no
They have
clue,
no
so
idea what
let's,
happens down there.
Yeah.
No, we don't. And it's that, and it doesn't have to be like, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, but in the payroll process, what does that process look like from the 30,000 foot view? You know, and then later on, we could get closer down.
I'm not
you
even
know.
worried about 30,000 foot view. I just want to know, I'm responsible for doing payroll.
Yeah.
And and then we can like dig into how are you validating time? How are you making sure that, I don't know how we do overtime for police and fire. There's usually complex rules, stuff like that. We can deal with that, but let's first at least know I'm responsible for payroll in this role, that kind of stuff. Let's start at the highest level. And it's like, here are the 15 things that I take care of, whether it be city plats or, blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
And I think that'd be helpful too, is incorporating them.
Yeah, it'd be good to know,
Yeah.
if we see the job descriptions, then, and if you guys see anything that's missing, I think that's when you get it to us, say, hey, here's something else we're doing that's not on here. Or this is something we don't do anymore because, the water trough is no longer used.
I think you're right. Most people don't realize what Rick does, because he's in there a while, but there's 2 pages of things that happen in that office every day.
Yeah.
A lot of people think we sit there and take money in. There's a heck of a lot more going on than that, I can tell you.
I don't see anybody sitting down there drinking, so.
No, we wish we could sometimes, believe me.
Yeah. The other piece of that.
Actually, I got a little bottle I've had for 30 years. And every year,
It evaporates a little more. It's now syrup.
That's fine. The other piece of that is segregation of duties. And it's really difficult. I recognize the difficulty of segregation of duties when you have such a small office. But it's also really important, and it's why the city manager's office and our financial administrator do certain things, and why our treasurer clerk's office do certain things. And but that would be, we need to have that explained, because, the question is, well, how come Carrie has to take the slips and write the, or why does somebody up here have to do this and then it comes down there? Well, that's why it's a segregation of duty. This person has to do this in order for this person to that. And this person should never be doing this unless there's a reason,
Really, that's the heart, I think, of the question that Carter's been trying to put on the table, which is in terms of procedures, what is best practice?
Yep.
And effectively, we're talking about kind of an internal audit to make sure that we're following it.
Right.
So then let's match it up. We get the job descriptions, we get the information from VLCT, and then maybe it's a case of, let's see then Jim, maybe you can tell us what we're doing, what we're not. Does
I
that?
can definitely tell you what we're doing.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, let's get the third-party view from VLCT and their best practices. And just because they're best practices someplace else doesn't mean the best practices here, so let's.
You touched on one simple thing today, talking about segregation of duties. Our office has never, we don't, up until now, reconcile the general fund checkbook. That's always been done up here to get it out of our office, because we pay the bills to take the money in, and get it somewhere else to reconcile. Robin's doing that now because we haven't had anybody up here for that. And so, seriously, I don't know if Carrie wants to take that.
Well, no, I do think it's
Putting
probably,
more work on
it
Carrie's
is in
back.
fact likely to end up on Carrie's desk, when she gets a chance to get into it a little bit.
So that's a good example of
That's
what
an excellent example.
we don't do down there. That's that.
Yep. And that's an excellent example because that's what you have to have. You can't have the same person making the deposit and then going back the next day to reconcile if you don't have somebody to verify that. That's just how that works.
Yep.
So, okay.
For sure. All right. Thanks, y'all. I'm feeling pretty good on that one. I'm gonna move to charter and ordinances check-in with Anne. I don't know if you were tasked with something last week, and it had to do with reviewing our charter and what we can and can't do around.
Tax payments.
Yes.
Anne has done that.
I've done some of it, I wasn't tasked with a bit more of it. I did a bit more of it, but there's still open questions. Okay, so I looked at the charter, and the charter doesn't mention anywhere how tax payments should be made, you know, whether it's one-time payment a year or 4-time payment a year. Then I also saw that you had added on that I should look to see if there are any ordinances with regard to that. I noted that today, and I called Jim and I said, can I look at the ordinances? And he said it was simple, I had to just look at the indices of 2 books. But he said he didn't think there were any ordinances about it. When I came in, I met Stacy at the front desk, and she said she didn't think there were any. But then she gave me the 2 books. I looked at the indices, and then I looked just generally through the book to sort of get a feel for it. And I didn't see any ordinances that dealt with the issue. I went to state statute just to see if they address it at all. And they do. The state statutes have a municipal section where they tell municipalities basically what to do. And they specifically said that the tax bill may include all of the bill or part of the bill of the taxes. So that, but they don't say anything more than that. And so the next question becomes, how does the city move from being a 1-time or 2-time payment to a 4-time payment? And I'm not sure, it just says in most of the AI stuff that I see that it's a town or city decision, but it doesn't say who makes the decision. A town like, I think it was North Hero or South Hero, I can't remember, Vermont, puts it in the warrant every year. Shall the town vote to pay its real estate taxes to the city in installments with due dates being April 1st,
Nice.
July 1st, you know, what,
Yeah.
November 1st and whatever,
Yeah.
whatever the dates are. So they do it as a warning. Yeah. That's a possibility. I don't know if that's required, but that's one possibility.
How much does it cost? So I'm assuming we're mailing out tax statements to everybody. How much does it cost to mail out tax statements every 6 months to everybody?
It's
No, it's one,
That's an envelope, and there's
pardon?
about 2,000 bills.
So you do 4 bills in one.
so it's about $1,500. But Jim, am I right that we're not sending twice a year? We only send 1 tax bill a year.
Regardless if it's 4 payments or 2, it's gonna be 1 bill.
Exactly. So there's no actual additional
Okay,
cost
so
for
there's no
postage.
additional overhead. That's what I was just.
It's just changing the way the bill is printed, because it would have 4 tabs or what.
Yeah, there used to be tear-offs on the one I had in Arizona, Pima County, Arizona, and you would tear off one of. I think we were doing twice a year, but we would tear off the first tab and put it in with the envelope.
Right.
And it's up to Chip to go to Florida to arrange something to get 4 coupons on the bill.
I did have one question that was more substantive about it, and that is, if we go to the quarterly system, obviously a portion of the taxes that come in per quarter are state taxes. Do those state taxes go into a,
That's correct.
right, some sort of, this is it, it's there and it stays there, or do we play borrow from Peter to pay Paul with respect to that, and it's just sort of available for us, the state part of it available for us to do things as long as we have it at the end, which is not my preferred method of dealing with this stuff. And what happens to the interest? Is the interest the state's, or is the interest ours if we put it in a savings account or a CD or 3-month CD? And the last thing, there's a little bit separate from that. do we pay the state all of what they estimate we should be paying them, or do they have to suffer the way we suffer when somebody doesn't pay their taxes? Do we say, oh, well, you wanted $1 million at the state, but you know, we didn't get, Mr. Smith didn't pay us and Mr. Jones didn't pay us, therefore we're only going to give you $990,000 or whatever. Do we get away with that, or do we have to suck up?
We suck it up.
We suck it up, okay. But then, how are we going
Want
to?
that answer?
Yeah,
We
go ahead,
suck-
Chip.
That part we suck up, I got that. What do we do with the state money that we get each quarter?
We don't get state money. None of the taxes we collect are remitted to the state of Vermont.
But we have to give them,
You're talking about school tax.
I'm talking about school tax.
School taxes.
We collect school
Correct.
tax for them.
Yes, we do, and I already have the preliminary educational cash flow for the current fiscal year. And we have $2.8 million going to the local school district, 1.8 million going to North Country Senior High School, and 865,000 going to North Country Junior High School as the preliminary cash flow for education. There is not a single payment to the state of Vermont.
Yeah, I think, Chip, what
There
she's
are towns
asking,
that do have to pay the state of Vermont. You're not one of them.
I think the question is if we're paying, the school payments are for twice a year.
Correct.
We're collecting tax
School
revenue.
payments are twice a year because you are twice a year collecting.
Oh, so we can
If
immediately
you
pay
collect
them.
4 times a year, you pay the
4 times a year, I'll
schools
pay it
4
4
times a
times.
year.
Okay.
And further, am I correct, Jim? My experience of it in the last year and a half on council is that those payments are basically set to follow a matter of weeks after the tax receipts are due,
If we
right?
collect on November 15th, the school has to be paid by December 5th.
So that's
Okay,
the
20
so-
days after play.
It's really
20
negligible.
days.
Right.
Yeah.
Same thing in May.
So that would, so then you would divide that up by the 4. So I have to tell you, I'm really liking the idea. My family pays it once a year, but I'm liking the idea of the 4 times a year. It's making so much more sense to me with, especially last time when Chip made the statement that what that means is we don't have to keep borrowing so much
Right.
money from the bank. And that's what the city wants to see. That's what the people want to see, is we don't have to be borrowing this amount of money to carry us until November. So I don't see any reason to not begin to work that out. I mean, I recognize this year, I don't know whether we get to even start it this year, it might be too late, but
So how would the verbiage be? You have the option of paying 1, 2, or 4 times.
No,
I
it
think
would
if you go
say,
to quarterly, they're gonna pay quarterly.
yeah, you would say,
Or you pay
this is your
quarterly, you
total
pay early,
bill,
or you
due on these dates. Anybody can always pay early if they like.
Gotcha. Okay.
So when I had a brief conversation with David Rue from SPNF yesterday about this particular topic. It was just one of a number of things we talked about. And his immediate judgment, though we didn't, he said, you know, I could go research this. And I said, please don't, we're not ready and I don't want to spend money on it. But he said his immediate impression was that it would be something we would want to warn in a public meeting, at least the change from twice a year to 4 times a year, if not doing it the way you suggest North or South Hero does it, which I kind of like actually, just letting the voters know this is what your dates are going to be next year, and then the bill matches it when it goes out. So if we made this a recommendation for council's consideration sometime this fall, council would warn that item along with everything else the end of January for a decision on March 3rd.
Can we quantify the advantage in any way of doing this? Because I think if there's one thing that we want to put in front of it, why are we doing it? How do we quantify that
I believe
recommendation?
Chip gave us the number of 87,000 in interest payments on the loans that we take. Is that right?
Obviously, I missed a lot last week.
Yeah, it's okay. Sorry. Yeah, no, I'm just jumping in. I didn't give a big overstatement.
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
In FY '25, you paid $87,000 worth of interest on a tax anticipation line of credit, which got paid off, and now we're at 1.8 million borrowed this year already, and the only tax payments we have collected have been the municipal adjustment, which we now know is really payment towards taxes and not an extra income.
So, okay. So
And
I'm
if
gonna
we
ask-
were a quarter of the way through, if we already had a quarter of our $11 million collected, what's a quarter of $11 million? It far exceeds 1.8 million, so we wouldn't have borrowed.
So I have one other mechanical question. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off,
no,
Lori.
go ahead.
And most people are, if you carry a mortgage, most people have to accrue property taxes and everything through an escrow account there. Those escrow accounts, are those what are actually cutting the checks to pay the property taxes? So the mortgages are gonna have
Send the
to,
bill, you give your bill to your mortgage company.
okay. Yeah, I'm
That's it.
just,
You just give your bill to the mortgage
And
company.
then-
unfortunately, I'm just writing a check because I'm not carrying a mortgage. So
Right.
I'm like, I've
Yeah.
kind of blanked out on
Yeah.
that process. Because what I just wanted
Included
to,
in mine, like, I'm like, I never see it, I don't.
well,
yeah,
and that's why I want to,
Yeah.
that's the other part of it is,
Yeah, no.
if you ask someone to do something from once or twice a year to 4 times a year, I want to make sure the pain is as small as possible, and I assume that the vast majority of people are carrying some kind of note on their home.
Well, and I think my question will go along with that, but yes, there is an education piece to this. And so we do the quantify, this is what we're gonna save in the interest. And then you say, if you're carrying escrow on a mortgage, please make sure you know. I mean, it seems
Yeah, we have to
it seems
communicate
odd
that.
that we would have to say that as a city, but it's a reminder. Please make sure you notify your mortgage company that your payment is now due quarterly and not every 6 months. Now, here's the next question.
Or annually.
Or annually, however you choose to make the payment, but based on these dates. So this is a question for Chip. This again came out of the conversation from at some point in the last few weeks. And that is, okay, currently my first payment is November, my second payment is May. As I said, at my house, we write the full check in October, actually, as soon as the bill comes. So are we giving people an option to say, I can pay it all?
That's what I mean.
I can pay
You
it
can
all in
always pay
August.
more.
But if I miss the August payment, if we do August, November, however we're gonna do it, okay? But let's just say August is the first payment. If August is the first payment and I don't make a payment until November, am I gonna incur
Penalty?
Am I going to incur a penalty if I don't pay the August payment?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what
Okay.
quarterly means. You
Okay.
have to make at least this much of a payment
Okay,
on this date.
okay.
And if you don't, then there would be a penalty
So
associated.
let me correct you both. Depends on the article.
Yes, that's,
So, if the article is, shall the taxpayers in the city of Newport collect the FY '27 property taxes in 4 installments due X, Y, Z, W. And they are considered late after each date, subject to 1% interest per month for the first 3 months, 1.5 per month thereafter, and 8% penalty after the final due date.
okay. Yep,
The final due date's the 4th.
right.
So that is the most common. And so the incentive is to pay quarterly or get 1% interest for paying late for each month, or 1.5 after 3 months for each payment. It is extra calculation in the clerk's office, and usually about 30 days before the final due date, or even during the year, you can send interest due notices to the taxpayers to say, hey, you didn't pay on time, you still owe me interest. Or you didn't pay at all, you owe me now principal and interest. But the whole goal here is to even out the cash flow coming into the city and the money leaving the homeowner. It is, I think, the best condition for both. And there are communities who actually say all 4 payments are voluntary, not subject to interest. Well, now the homeowner has no incentive to pay.
Yeah.
And the idea is that's what we want. That's why we're doing this, to save us the money on the other end.
The whole point here is we're trying to even out our cash flow.
Right.
I wish I'd spent like 30 minutes in Excel and I could have made two graphs where it will basically show right off the bat we go in the red and we're in the red for a while until we get one of those hits and we might be up for a little bit and then we go back down until we get that last installment versus the peaks and mountains will be much less in the red, and although they won't be these big installments where we have this huge surplus of capital, we're mostly staying above bar. And so I think that will like speak again, give me 30 minutes in Excel and I'll do it. But
so the reality, the balance sheet for the general fund that I just produced for Monday's meeting, the general fund is in current year deficit of just under $1 million. Why? No revenue. We're paying bills, we're almost 3 months through. We won't actually see a major influx of revenue for property taxes until we mail the bills. And there are those who get that bill and open it at the post office and walk to City Hall and pay the whole thing, because they don't want to die with that over their head.
That's Lori.
And there's others.
That's Brian.
Toss it in the trash and wait for the delinquent notice to come before they pay it.
Yeah, true.
But, so the sooner we can get it in their hands, the sooner we can enhance our cash flow.
That's right.
But your town report already published says our due dates are 2 of them. So this year we can't compensate for it.
correct.
But if we make this move by March 3rd, then it means that it'll be a very different conversation about the line of credit in June of next year.
Yes.
We won't need, God willing, we won't need $3 million in a line of credit in anticipation
And
of
it's
taxes.
July 1st you start it.
No, I know. I'm saying in June when I'm trying to negotiate it, because that's what I obsessed over in this last month of June.
With the mortgage.
Yeah, I'm hoping that based upon the end of this year coming, because you're collecting a bulk amount of money June 15th, that July 1st, you're gonna already have cash in hand to get you to August 15th.
That's the idea. What were you gonna ask, Pam?
That's the,
Do the mortgage companies usually cooperate, or do they get all bureaucratic and say, our schedule is our schedule?
No,
No.
they're pretty good about that.
in fact, mortgage companies, Limerick Tax Administration software sends data directly to the largest mortgage company in the United States that will show them parcels, names, quarterly installments, and what the due dates are. And they have mechanisms to automate getting that paid electronically and providing a file to the city to record those payments. And the money typically comes in ACH, and there's a balancing act. And for one person in the office in 15 minutes to bring in $1 million.
Yep.
I did look at Burlington briefly, and for what it's worth, a big city like that specifically changed from getting biannual payments to getting quarterly payments, and the reason they give is that it helps you with your cash flow specifically.
Well, I don't want to move on to this topic without giving Mitch praise and thanks to you for getting
thanks
down and going into investing.
For reading the charter again.
Yes.
Just as a citizen.
Yeah.
Just as a citizen.
Okay, no.
Greatest sleep aid ever
It's
made.
noted.
I just wanna ask one really quick question.
Yeah.
So do we do the first payment due August, November, February, May, or do we back that up because we'll know in March, once the residents vote on the budget, do we back that up to due in July, or do we do due in August? I mean, what's the
So
recommendation?
Tax bills include the state education tax rate, which normally is not available until June 30th.
Okay.
It requires the listers, assessors to submit a grand list to the state typically by May 25th for the state to use to generate those tax rates. If the city is going through a reappraisal, they should complete all their grievance and grievance hearings before they finalize the grand list for purposes of tax billing. Out of town property owners are entitled to 45 days notice before the first due date. And so for many communities, even if they do a bill that's due August 15th, the first week of July, they try to get the bills produced and out the door. So what that also means for the city clerk's office is that as homestead declarations change and state payments on tax bills get added or removed, that revised bills have to be done and mailed. And so there's a little extra work on that because right now, not having done any bills, our first bill will have the majority of changes that will have taken place. They will still have revised bills. Once people get them in their hand and realize they didn't file their homestead, they'll file it. And then that generates a revised bill. So all the steps needed, just there's more chance for more revised bills the earlier that we produce them. But again, cash flow tells me if I'm not paying $3,000 in interest every month, then I'm actually ahead of the game.
So what I hear you saying is that the quickest we could probably move that process along would be like an August 15th, November 15th, et cetera, deadline, like 6 weeks after the beginning of the new fiscal year.
Yes, so the question, do you put that as a warrant article in March?
Yeah.
Or do you put that as a warrant article in November, because you're already having a vote?
No, we don't have a vote this November, do we?
No.
We don't have a state,
So
we don't have any,
Yep,
at this point, I don't have the energy to call a special election for this
No.
purpose.
shouldn't do that.
I got way more important things to deal with. So I think we aim for March 3rd, and we warn that we intend to have those dates be August 15,
Yep.
November 15, February 15,
May.
and May 15.
Is there nothing from the state in November?
No,
What's that?
no elections, next
No
year,
election from the
Next
state
year.
in November?
Yeah.
Next year.
next year. Even numbered years.
Okay, can we move to
Yes.
I was gonna say, okay, 10-year projection, we got some smart people working on this.
Yeah, so let me just kind of catch people up.
Oh, okay.
So I sent a long email that Carter was copied on initially, and I've now copied all of you on around this table on that email to Pasumsic today, trying to make sure that we have all of our ducks in order because there's a very tight timeline on trying to get all these loans arranged.
Yep.
And there's a lot of busy work, as we all know now from the last one we did, that has to go into making each one happen. So we'll see if they push back, but the timeline that I've got in my head is that we are trying to, we're warning today for council to take action on the fire truck lease Monday night based on the proposal that is in the packet that Carrie's going to send out this afternoon. And what they will be doing is giving me permission to sign the final documents to get that one arranged. So that's the first, and even if we do all of that as quickly as possible, getting the opinion letter from the attorney and everything we have to do, the likelihood is we're looking at October 3rd as probably our deadline or our actualization date on that loan, which is actually, I should be careful, that's a lease. So just to be clear, this is through municipal lending corporate or consultants. And what this is they own the truck, and at the end of the 10th payment, they sell it to us for $1. Okay, so that one is, I think, my next step is I've got to reach out on Monday to the folks who are actually delivering the truck and work out the fact that they intend to deliver on the 18th of September, and I can't figure out how to pay them until the first week of October. And I'm hoping that I can sweet talk them into saying, we're going to park it in your garage, promise not to move it. We'll see, because we can't start to use it until all of this is arranged. So that's number one.
quick question, are we gonna be able to actually make a first payment to the leasing company this year in
Yes.
October or next year?
What we are trying to work out, Chip and I have been looking at this. We asked them, they recommended or gave us the option of making a first payment immediately, basically, and then making payments at that time thereafter, which would save us roughly 50 grand it was, right, Chip, in interest over the life of this thing?
Yeah.
Chip and I looked at that and said, yeah, that's a cash flow issue. We don't got it right now. So we asked if we could make our first payment in early December, I think December 1st it might have been, and then make those payments the same time thereafter. And they said yes, they were amenable to that. So that's the plan, and that will save us most of that $50,000 in interest.
Okay, thank you.
All right, then the next one is the one we have to work out for the short-term loan in anticipation of bond income to cover the water tower. And that one is on a very tight timeline because the construction line of credit comes due on October 7th. So my intention is to ask council to commit to a special meeting on Monday night, the 29th of September, 2 weeks from this coming Monday, where we will make all the final decisions about that note. There's a lot that has to happen between here and there on each one of these. Basically, we have to have the cash flow, which we can talk about in just a minute. And then the bank has to produce all the documents that have the terms and everything written into them. Then SP&F reviews the documents. Then SP&F says, yes, we approve, and here are your actions you need to take at the council meeting to make sure everything is done according to Hoyle, as they say, right? Then, after that vote of council on the 29th, then SP&F will write an opinion letter that says, in their opinion, the city has done everything it was supposed to do decently and in order, as we say in the Presbyterian Church USA, and then the bank will finally generate the final documents for signature. So my hope on that one is that we would complete all of that by Monday, October 6th. Right, which is just how we did this last one. We're going to press right up against it. So that's that one. We'll come back to the cash flow in a moment. Then the last two would be the sewer due to others loan, right? That we're going to use up to $1 million to cover the due to others line in the sewer fund, and the general fund up to $1.8 million, and to cover the general fund accumulated deficit. The goal would be to do those basically on a 1 week delay after the other one, because we still need the money for cash flow, right? Even though we may not have an immediate deadline, but we are definitely, I'm watching cash flow with Jim pretty much every week, trying to make sure that we're going to be okay here. So the goal on that one would be to do the same process again, but the decisions that the council would make would happen on October 6th. And then we would hopefully have all of the final paperwork done, I hope by October 10th, but certainly no later than the 15th, to get the cash flow to come in. And remember that whatever we end up borrowing up to $1.8 million on the general fund is going to go directly to Pasumsic to pay down the balance, the principal on the current line of credit that we're operating on. So we'll get $1 million out of those two loans that will come to help us with cash flow with the city, and the other $1.8 million will go back to the line of credit, so at least we're not paying interest on that portion of the line of credit. Okay.
So what you're saying is a good thing you can't afford gas for these chainsaws you drive.
Right? Yeah, because if they were running, I'd be looking bruised. So here's the thing. Carrie and Chip have been working on a 10-year projection template, and Carrie and I met yesterday with Jason Herman, because Tom is away, from the wastewater treatment plant. And we looked at the sewer note in particular and said, what should we be thinking about in terms of what where are the projection. What I've learned, and that I really didn't understand 6 months ago, is that it's a pretty straightforward calculation. You basically take whatever you're spending this year. If you think that it's working, you do, in fact, in this case, add a modest incremental change, because it's the only way to look 10 years out. And the only thing that would change your incremental changes is if you see some major item coming down the pike at you, like we got to buy a new vac truck in here somewhere, or we got to do a total renovation of the sewer plant, right? Which, just for the record, we will have to do, probably in the next 10 years.
Maybe before.
Well, next year we have an inspection coming. The engineering survey and inspection will happen next year, and then we'll know what we're really up against. So Carrie is working on this spreadsheet, and the trick is we've got to get the water one done, and well, both really, but the water one especially has got to be done immediately. And one of my concerns is that the Water and Sewer Task Force isn't scheduled to meet again until Wednesday night, the 24th. So the note that I sent to the bank this morning said, if I got you the final version of the water and sewer cash flow on Thursday, the 25th, can we still make it to, can we still pull all of this together for the meeting on the 29th, and then finally arrange the last of the loan documents by the 6th of October? And I sent that mid-afternoon, so I don't know. So for
You got a response at 5 o'clock.
We did?
You got a response at 5 o'clock.
Meaning you sent it?
No.
Meaning Ellen Stanley sent you a response at
Oh,
5
great,
o'clock.
okay, so we'll look at it. I don't know. Is there anything in there, Chip, that we should know about now? That says
She just said really good luck to y'all. No. It was, thank you for the update and timeline. We'll review and get back to you on Monday with our comments. We are in the process of preparing a term sheet for the $3 million refunding note to take out the water tower line of construction for your review, and we'll have that to you on Monday as well. We will need the projections for the water sewer departments and ample time to review in order to finalize our loan.
Okay, so I
Have a
think,
great weekend.
so I think that's actually an affirmation. I think what I've laid out at least doesn't immediately strike her as impossible. And one thing that makes the water tower note a little bit easier is that with the sewer note and the general fund note, it's not clear to me exactly, or to any of us, I don't think at this point, exactly what that amount should be. So Chip's going to have to help us with those decisions over the next couple of weeks. But with the water tower note, I think our inclination is going to be to say, let's take the entire $3 million, because even if we don't need it all to pay off the water tower, we'll use the rest of it on meters.
Yep.
Right? So what I really need from this group is, as soon as Carrie and Chip and I can come up with kind of a rough take on this thing, we'll send it to all of you. But I don't even know how much difference it's going to make. Honestly, it's kind of a straightforward calculation. We look at this year's water budget and last year's actual, and we say, what do we expect to have happen next year and the year after that?
Can we, yeah, the only thing I can think of is just with things going the way they are, and I'm thinking more macro, is be really conservative on your estimates on growth around inflation and the adjustment that's going to represent.
Meaning,
So
do a bigger incremental jump on materials.
Instead of saying 3%, I mean, you've got to be thinking not 3, but 6 or 7. I mean, it's things, the way things are looking right now,
That's helpful.
it's, the macros are really off kilter. 5 years ago, I would have said 3 or 4% makes sense. But to be conservative, you've got to go high right now, because everything that goes into like a sewer plant, concrete, we're bringing, like I was doing some work the other day on concrete costs. Don't even ask why. Because half the stuff comes from Canada.
Right.
All the steel that goes into the pipes is coming in from overseas because there's no manufacturing for it here in the country. So all the stuff, those big items that sewers are made of is all coming in.
Not going to jump.
Or have jumped. So, I mean, I would be really aggressively conservative and we'll be better for it.
And
And we used 5%.
Yeah.
You used 5?
Our initial was 5%.
I still think that's low.
So raise that to.
I mean, what's current inflation rate? it's like 4.1% or something like that. But if we were, what I would say is have a tagline in there. Look at what heavy mechanical, like steel and concrete, what the inflation rate's been like the past 6 months, and use that as your factor.
So, yes, and I think whatever we do, obviously, there's a narrative piece for this one that's gonna say, if costs go higher than we have projected, city council's commitment is to raise rates accordingly,
Yes.
which has not been our practice,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, you can't predict. I mean, it could be, I mean, honestly, if this tariff thing doesn't stop screwing around, who knows what those costs could do next year. 5 to 7% may seem ridiculously laughable 2 years from now, if all of a sudden you can't get something without a 30% tariff on it.
Right.
And so that's the other item. We just have to make sure this is one of those items that maybe it's every 6 months on the city council's desk. Something like this when we're looking at these long-term plans, that it's
Well, I
an
think
every
that-
6 month item,
I
yeah.
think that's what all of them want anyway, the bond bank and Pasumsic, is if we do a change, they get the information. Like
Yes,
in the
and-
future, we're keeping them up to date all the time, right?
Yeah, and it seems to me that on water and sewer, we are establishing a practice right now where we ask the question every quarter, are these rates set appropriately,
Right.
right? It will hopefully be less rigorous or less demanding, I don't mean less rigorous, less demanding on us once we get that pattern established than it is this summer, but.
Well, and I always say this, we have to throw in the mix the new users coming online. And the rates and
So
our
we did
rates
talk
going
about
down
that.
and.
So one of the things we talked with Jason about was, let's say that in 5 to 7 years, I think we said 5, what did we say, Carrie, do you remember, for population?
Said look at it at 3 years and look at it again at 7.
Yeah, we were trying to tie it to the Newport Downtown Development / City of Newport Master Plan, right? And if we are successful at adding 100 apartment units in our downtown area over the next 5 to 7 years, then we said to Jason, what does that do to our figures in terms of what it costs to provide this service? So we are trying to figure it, but it's such a big generalized guess right now.
Well, and because we don't know, we've just started adding new meters in the meter users, and unless there's a way to figure it out along the way, we really don't know, except from this last billing cycle. And now we've added however many we're hoping to add.
About
50 or
45 so far, just so you know.
See, that's, wow, that's like phenomenal.
100.
And so if we anticipate 100 total by, the end of before the next billing cycle, we'll see. We should be able to see where those
What it's doing to the rate.
what it's doing to the rate and the numbers, because this,
Okay. So as we're speaking, I think maybe what we need from you is Carrie and Chip will work on this, and I'll review it with them. Carter, you're welcome to jump into that. And I think what we need to do is provide you all with a 10-year projection that just has the very highest level numbers with a series of any notes about any assumptions we've made in the process. So that next Friday, you all can look at that and say, okay, these assumptions look good, but I wish you'd be more aggressive about this number here, right?
Yeah, that's a.
And then we take that as a report from this committee to City Council, and it becomes the cash flow projection that we use. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and if, in our scenario, whether there's a best, worst, and most likely, we need to look at most likely and worst, never best.
Got it. Yep. Okay.
Can we go back for a minute to?
Yes, but I'm just going to tell you all, I've got a grandchild visit for kids who arrived last night, and I haven't seen them yet, so I'm not going to go much more today.
Yeah, my last thing real quick was picking a new time, and because main people are in this room, I'm wondering if it can pause until Rick leaves. if that's okay.
Okay, well, I just want to put a question out there that I'd like an answer to with respect to next week then. I want to know about the anticipation note. How much is actually used of the 2.4 million construction line of credit? Did we use it all? And these $600,000 that the general fund is owed by the water fund, we talked about getting a picture of those bills to see if it added up to $600,000. I think we sort of committed that we would get that information to make sure that the 3 million was a viable number.
So short answer to those questions. I think right now we're at 1.9. Is that right, Jim, on the construction line of credit? I think we're at about 1.9. There's not. Anyway, that's a rough number because it's hard to get my head around. But in the process of doing all of this final work on the line of credit and paying it off, and Frank is working his butt off, really putting in many, many hours trying to sort out the income side, the grants that we've taken in, and trying to do all the final accounting. And he has gone back and done a careful accounting of all of the expense related to the water tower. So we will have those numbers because the bank is asking for them as well.
Good.
I just don't quite know when we can promise them yet, but they're coming.
You get my email on the 132,000?
I did, but I think there are still other questions about it after talking with Frank, so we can talk Monday.
Okay, so new time to meet because Friday afternoons, I understood when we were in a triage mode and that was the time everybody could make work. But I'm wondering if we could pick a time on Wednesday or Thursday in the morning, and maybe making it virtual for a little bit. I just think long term, and I don't know, I work from home, you work from home, you work wherever you are, but mostly with a computer. You're pretty literate in technology. You can team up with Jim.
We're here anyway.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm thinking for this next, since we are repeatedly meeting and this is just taxing, and I think it's going to be hard to sell because we are not trying to awkwardly and quickly bring this up at the end of the meeting, but Travis had to go, so we have a vacancy. So I'm trying to think about how can we make this just continue and enforce with my lovely volunteers. So I don't know, real quick, if there are days, if either Wednesday morning time or a Thursday morning time or work, and how you guys feel about going virtual.
I don't mind virtual.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, whether it's virtual or here in person, I mean, it's 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I'm 100 yards farther away than you.
Yeah.
My biggest issue is time frames because I'm covering working with groups across the country. So
Yeah.
I get, Friday afternoons for me are the best because it's just the biggest lull.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that same with you, Rick?
I can flex, but I'm interested, Lori, you're trying to juggle the works.
Yeah, it's anytime before 9 o'clock is better for me.
Okay,
Because, I mean, I'm technically, and Wednesday and Thursday, I can pretty much make one of those work.
Okay.
8 o'clock it would have to be a shorter meeting,
Yeah,
probably.
a 1 hour meeting.
And it might be, it really depends on my work schedule. Most of my meetings these days are not until like 9:30 or something, but, and if I'm online, I'm online, so it doesn't really matter. But 8 is a good one for me.
Yeah.
So,
If we were at 8 a.m., Pam, is that a reasonable thing in your life?
It depends. If it's in person, it's reasonable. If you're doing it online, then you're gonna have to record it,
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
and that's fine.
Which
As
we
long
can
as you
figure out that-
record it and ship it out to Tom, and it can get processed and posted.
Did that work last time? Todd was able to produce it?
It was challenging, but we think Carrie figured out the problem. so.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
and are you guys available to join? I mean, as far as like if you're at 8 o'clock in the morning, are you okay with that? If you want to be a part of the conversation,
fine.
I mean, you've been.
Yeah.
Does 8 work
Invaluable.
with you, or is
I
that
will
hard?
have to see. It's gonna, I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I'm usually working at 7 or 7:30.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Yeah.
an 8 o'clock might be an issue.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
that's,
what time
no,
does
that's the
your office
reality.
open?
Yeah.
Is it 7? Oh my god.
Well, you
I
don't
mean,
open the office at 7. You're
But
in
you're
at
in
7.
at 7.
Right.
We're in
But
at
still, that's okay. So you're like, whatever. Okay.
People have to get in. We
All right, so I'll check in with Susie, and then is there any preference to Wednesday or Thursday morning?
Yes, if it's going to be 8, it would have to be Wednesdays for me.
Wednesdays? Okay. So
Well, and I can do earlier, so, I mean, you don't wanna do it.
now, I like the idea of like weekly, just an hour, we
Chip.
have hard dead.
8 a.m. work on your end on a Wednesday?
Make it work.
Yeah.
Okay.
And our days typically don't start till 8:30, but I'm always at the desk by 8 o'clock.
Yeah,
Okay.
understood. Okay, thanks all. Let's try this out.
So
and I'll send you-
when would that start?
I'm thinking this Wednesday. Or do we want to skip a week?
Well, we can't skip much because
No.
I've got to
No, we
get,
can't.
if you all want to weigh in, or we can just do the weigh in on the 10-year cash flow by email and not have to meet about it. That would be okay.
I can do that. That's no problem.
Yeah.
And I got homework with. So yeah, I maybe like skip this coming Friday
meet on
and then what? number
Wednesday
is
the
that?
24th.
Wednesday the 24th. Yes.
I am,
So you're gonna-
I should be able to
8
make
a.m.?
24th work.
You say you should?
I should, yeah, because we're having a shutdown, system shut down that week, starting the 23rd, so my life's gonna be a little crazy for a few days. for a
Karen,
week.
can you warn that on the city site for us?
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
would that be an online meeting?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do.
Well, I mean, I can, it doesn't matter to me where I am, so if anybody wants to do it in person, I'm happy to be here.
If everybody else is online, it's sort of
It's kind of,
stupid,
I'll
it's
probably-
better off,
I'd rather try and join online, let's.
yeah.
try one online and see how it
Pressure
goes.
test it.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
I like
Yeah.
that.
So
we could try.
try it, you record it,
Yes.
and let's
And-
see.
yes. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
that's fine.
All right.
And just so you guys know, I am leaving on the 2nd of October to go to North Carolina until the
Nice.
19th.
Enjoy.
And I'll just let me know when things are and I can, I am working partially from there, part-time and full-time, whatever.
I'm going to take these
So-
recurring meetings on Friday afternoons off my calendar.
Well, enjoy. No, I mean, we'll keep you apprised, but yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
Great
Thanks,
meeting,
everyone.
everybody. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.